Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Adventures in Collecting.
Hello. I wave
Dave,
now.
you can.
Yeah.
Still adjusting to this wonderful world of video.
Uh-huh.
Welcome back to Adventures in Collecting.
I added a new decoration,
You
a
did. Look
New
at
York
that.
Liberty pennant.
Wow, look at that. I had there's lots of new things in this room that I can't turn the camera around and show right now because it would be disturbing and alarming the amount of boxes. But
Yeah, I
yeah.
figured I'd improve the visuals.
There you go. I like it. It's a good move. It's a good look on you, Dave. So we of course do have a special guest with us today. It's actually been a couple weeks since we've had a special guest, but
Yeah.
we do have a little bit of housekeeping to take care of right before we introduce our guest here. Our big holiday toy drive is still ongoing. If you are listening to this, there is still time for you to help brighten the holiday season for a kid or kids in need. We of course have partnered with our friends, local New Jersey toy store, Chubsy Wubsy Toys and Collectibles, based out of Little Falls. What we're doing is we are incentivizing your generosity. So if you are kind enough to donate, um, we will enter you in to win a HasLab Marvel Legends Giant Man. These are no longer available. They were made to order, so
Mhm.
you are getting a very limited run figure. Giant Man is like 26 inches tall. It's like having an action figure the size of a small child. It's very it's very interesting.
And we've seen on some of the Instagrams, people have been like hanging out with them like small
Yeah,
children.
pushing him on a swing. I
Yeah.
think he fits into I believe it's 18 months. So if you go to Walmart or Target, you can get some leggings for him. It's really great. But in order to participate in this giveaway, you need to do a couple things. So you need to first and foremost make sure you're following us and Chubsy Wubsy Toys on Instagram. And by the way, all of this that I'm about to rattle off is available on our Instagram at AIC_podcast. It is our pinned post. You'll see it right at the top there. Um, it's got all the rules, but quick rundown. There's a couple things you need to do on Instagram. So you got to follow us, follow Chubsy Wubsy. You got to leave a comment tagging 3 friends. Sharing the post is great. Get the word out there. And then, of course, you need to actually make your donation. So we're taking care of all the legwork for you. Just go to chubsywubsy.com, make any toy donation, $9.99 or larger. And in the checkout process, there'll be a little window. You can put your Instagram handle and the word donation in there and set shipping to in-store pickup, and we'll take care of the rest. So this toy drive is running until December 12th. So you still have some time to be a part of it and potentially win yourself a Giant Man. But most
Yeah.
importantly, we're making it really easy for you to donate. For the holidays, make the holidays a little special for somebody who.
And there's no like, if you donate multiple times or anything, you get multiple if you're in, you're in.
Yep.
Everybody's got the same shot.
Yep. So, again, at AIC_podcast on Instagram, pinned post, all the information's there. And let's make our annual Toys for Tots donation bigger than it's ever been. Let's
Some would
make
say
it
giant.
giant. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. That's
If
that's
you
the
weren't
theme.
gonna go there, I was.
It's
So
it's a
that's
giveaway with a pun and a dad joke. Who doesn't love that?
yeah.
Yeah. So definitely take a look at that. And then of course in December we have our big annual uh, giveaway for our holiday in a box. So tons of toys, one winner. Keep an eye on that. That's another great reason to follow us. We do that every year. Every year that box gets a little bit bigger and a little bit more expensive to ship, and we love filling it as much as we can. So
Yeah.
definitely keep an eye out for that. But I am done now bearing the lead, Dave. The lead. Let's not
We're
bury the
long
lead.
past we're
Yeah.
long past the lead.
Well, housekeeping. We said
Yeah,
housekeeping.
I know.
We set expectations. So
We do.
as a packaging designer, The adage "you only get one first impression" is something this week's guest is all too familiar with. So much so that when he first sat down with us a little over a year ago, he made such a good first impression, we just had to have him back. Returning to the show is friend of the pod, Senior Director of Packaging Design at Jazwares, Chris Metzger. Chris, welcome back to Adventures in Collecting.
Appreciate it, fellas. Thanks for having me back on.
The
Welcome
And I
back.
actually like to add to that. Like one thing that I've always said was the package is the product before the consumer opens it. So
it's totally true, regardless
yeah,
of what it
Completely
is.
valid.
Like
yeah,
outside of the
Completely
toy
valid.
industry, everything, yeah, it's
yeah, yeah.
it's very, very true. Uh, Before we dig in here, as a reminder to our listeners and our viewers, what packaging at Jazwares are you currently overseeing? What are you working on?
Oh yeah. So we're working on the AW stuff, which includes ROH stuff. We've got a couple anime brands now. So we have a brand called Total Anime, which actually it's in stores now, and that is licensed through Crunchyroll. So it's a pretty vast portfolio of anime. And the challenge there was to come up with a overarching design that you can sort of plug in Chainsaw Man, My Hero Academia, Jujutsu Kaisen, that sort of thing. So it looked like a unified brand at retail. So that's one. Another big one, anime wise, is it was announced that we are actually doing the Last Airbender Avatar. It's very cool. We're actually doing Five Nights at Freddy's as another video game,
Yep.
and a couple other live action stuff that we're working on. Some Eternal IP, and of course, there's Halo and Call of Duty.
Yeah.
So
You're
yeah,
you're you're a busy man over there.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of stuff going on.
And Pokemon too, right?
Oh, actually, that's been shifted over to another team.
Oh, okay.
But I forgot to mention Fortnite is another brand working through.
Very cool. Yeah,
Nice.
that is quite a stacked roster there that
It is, yeah.
It
Yeah.
you're
sure
moving
is.
over.
Yeah, so since we last spoke, you've continued to push the envelope with packaging designs for the Jazwares Vault releases, for especially like Ring of Honor, and some
Mhm.
really slick work on the AEW exclusives over at Ringside, like the Switchblade Jay White, Jay Lethal, the Acclaimed 3-pack. Also, remember to use code AIC, save 10%.
Mhm.
Um, where do the ideas for these come from?
Well, on the ROH stuff, that was a bit of a challenge up front, right? Because it was a nod to some of the guys now that are in AEW or now in ROH, right? Unlike AEW, right? Well, so when there's an event for AEW, their in-house photography, capture some studio shots. So whatever they're wearing in the ring, they'll get this, really, energetic poses, or that's indicative of expression of that particular talent or their persona, right? ROH, on the other hand, had nothing, right? There was, so we're like, we kind of talked about, hey, do you know, and somebody over there, or some wrestling photographers that might have an archive of some of these guys that were wrestling in ROH at the time. And it was hard. We were hard pressed to find some good photos, right? So we're like, hey, let's come up with this sort of illustrative representation of the talent, right? So kind of put a mood board together, and our inspiration was kind of grungy, punky,
Mm,
sketchy. Maybe three colorways, just red, white, and black, similar to the ROH logo. And so we found this really talented, super talented illustrator on Instagram. Her name is Mel Coleman. So I reached out to her. I'm like, hey Mel, you interested in doing it? She's like, oh, I'd love to, whatever. And so that's how we kind of rolled out the whole ROH thing. And I'm sure you've seen our releases on the ROH. There
yeah.
has that ROH branding look to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't know if you noticed the actual package of the package structure is actually the O from ROH.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's in that shape.
Yeah, yeah,
it is.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I'm thinking about it. I'm actually looking at my I got Brody
There you go.
was the most recent one that came our way, and yeah, I mean I love that entire treatment, like you said, kind of that
Yeah, because even
grungy.
the 2 packs are like a bigger version of it. It's
Yeah,
Yeah,
almost like
right
it's
on there.
on the
it's
side.
round. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's just a wider O.
yeah,
It's
but
O.
oh, ring of honor.
Yeah.
No, but it's really it's interesting to hear you talk about kind of the mood of that packaging. I didn't really think about it that way, but it does, you know, thinking about it with that context, it does very much so look like, you know, like a poster that you'd see pasted up at a wall, like in front of like a CBGB's or an old punk club. Like it does
Oh yeah,
have that
yeah.
kind
Mhm.
of look to it. But I think something else that's also really unique about the Ring of Honor packaging and kind of Jazwares Vault in general, how much reverence is given to the packaging in the way that they're shipped, and you know
Oh, absolutely, yeah,
the slip cover, and then the
Yeah, I
actual
love the
shipper
slip cover.
within the shipper. It's like the corners, everything is
yeah.
so crisp and really kind of user friendly.
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, because I know through other D2C sites who shall remain nameless, right? So I know some of the guys on our vault side were just like, hey, what's the competition doing? Blah, blah, blah. Let's order some stuff, see what their offering is. It'd be put in a box with maybe some tissue paper, some of those bubble wrap pillows, bubble wrap sheets, and some of those air pillows or whatever. And you get it, and it's all dinged up and, damaged or whatever. So we just wanted to ensure that that the consumer or collector has a full experience, right? They get a great product, great package, and it comes undamaged, right? So I know other folks are kind of doing the SIOC ships in its own carton type of thing, right?
Yep.
So we decided to do let's do the main package, um, the what then we call like what the outer package, and then what we deemed as the collector protectors, which is like the little
Yep.
corner things, and then goes
Hmm.
in the shipping box. And well, we really had great success with all our transit tests and then things like that. So, but yeah, we just want to put in the hands because it's for collectors, right? And if you get something and oh, the corner's a little dinged, or the plastic in the window or the plastic on the blister is a little scuffed, it's not
Yeah.
pristine. So
Yeah. I had a box come from Vault that UPS treated like Ace Ventura in the beginning of that
yeah,
first
right.
movie, and everything on the inside was still like
Yeah,
Hmm.
pristine.
yeah,
I think I was one of the guinea pig boxes where like UPS was like, Jazwares said to beat these up. Let's see how much we could do.
yeah,
But no, but in all seriousness, it really it makes a difference. It's a huge
It
difference.
absolutely does, especially since it's that like limited to X number
yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
product.
yeah,
So if you want to keep it, mint in box or mint on card, it
yeah,
is. But
yeah,
it's
yeah,
also too, even though it's like the AEW, relative brand now being under the same umbrella, it's still a different style than the Unrivaled and
yeah,
Unmatched. So
for sure.
it's still going to be its own thing, which I really like.
And what we try to do is we try to keep it any of the ROH stuff or even the ringside stuff, the same footprint as it might be the unrivaled, unmatched, or any other exclusive. So if you get ringside single fig, all those dims are the same. So for the collector who wants to bookend them on a shelf or whatever, so there's no variation in the height or the modularity of it as well.
Yeah, that's super cool. Well, and you brought up ringside there. So the those are also a completely different treatment, and I feel like those are each one of those kind of one-off deliveries, like whether it's the Acclaimed with the boombox, which
Yeah,
is
yeah,
I think is honestly one of the coolest
It's brilliant.
action figure packaging of all time. That boombox is
Mhm.
amazing.
mhm,
Last time you were on, we talked at length about the Danhausen with the cape.
right, yeah.
But tell us a little bit about some of those newer ones, like the Black Machismo and Switchblade. Like, where do those kind of
Uh,
design ideas come from?
Tony Storm just hit too,
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yep,
Timeless
and
Tony
and
Storm.
Tony
Yeah.
Storm.
and
Yeah,
So,
Takeshita.
Yeah, so one of the guys on my team is Steve Jack, right? Or J Jack rather. It's like his name is like 17 letters
Consonants
long, and
all in
it's
a row.
like I'd like to like a lot of Z's, K's, C's, and like I like to buy a vowel, but it's pronounced D Jack. Um, Steve, a super talented guy, right? So we collaborate on these ringside items, and like you said, it's a one off, right? We want to tell a story for each individual character, not only reflect the talent's personality, but backstory, or even a moment in time as well, right? So if you look at the Boombox, they're hip hop guys, may seem obvious or whatever, but rather than doing the fifth panel from the top or from the side, let's fold it down so it can be like a playing display,
Yeah.
dance floor or whatever, right? Timeless Tony Storm. Again, it's like one of those things that may seem obvious, but the whole silent movie starlet type of thing, old school Hollywood, kind of pulling in the black and white sepia tones, film strips, and the pops of color on her lip and all that sort of stuff. So, and I think the important part is to have the product complement the packaging and have the packaging complement the product, right? So it's a little um, sort of two-way street there, little symbiotic relationship. Um, and you pull in the colors, you pull in some of the gear that the figures are wearing, into the package. Um, but yeah, I think it's just like have that complete total package, no pun intended there. So
Well, how involved, if at all, are the talent in their packaging or art direction?
it depends, right? So I think as I understand when we submit concepts or whatever. So what we'll do is we'll look to either some of the deco on their gear, which is actually what they wear in ring, or we'll take a look at their entrance videos, or even some of the apparel that's out there, right? And let's figure out like, hey, what's a cool visual story to tell here, right? Um, I know, some of the talent's very particular. And then some of the talent is like, cool, I haven't seen this before, but this is amazing, right? So I think those moments where, there's pushback is few and far between. And, it's pretty cool. You know what I mean? It's like the talent themselves, if we need them to like, hey, if we need like a particular pose or a particular gear, they'll be happy to accommodate us for sure.
It's interesting, right? Like, and we're going to get into this in a moment. As somebody who has the experience of being a creative director and like managing all these different brand style
Hmm.
guides and and lookbooks and everything, it's almost like when at least that's the way that you talk about it, right? Is like AEW has their own look and feel and has their own style guide, and like the
Yep.
way that they use the logo and colors and kind of that that array, but then almost the talent then have their own like
Yeah,
sub
No,
style
absolutely.
guides that
Yep.
you then have to apply the thinking of that to,
Yep.
like it's
Yep.
just it's wild. It's wild. And one of the things that Jazwares has done so well with the AEW line over since launch really is nailing the accuracy, like to the point
hmm
where like a lot of times on the box, right, like the back image is has a date, a location where that kind
Hmm.
of moment in time took place. And I think a lot of wrestling figure collectors and fans appreciate that attention to detail. I know we do.
No, yeah.
yeah,
um yeah,
absolutely.
it's awesome.
Yeah, and it's funny on the very, very, very rare occasion, we may say like, you know what, this is a better photo of so and so, and the gear that the wrestler is wearing at the time of the match better reflects of what's in box figure wise. So here, put this photo in. It may have been like, oh, it wasn't Dynamite. It was a collision match like the day after or whatever. And then, we get out here on social. That was actually not that date, blah, blah, blah.
Let me adjust my glasses.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Yeah,
No, but it's all good. But but we totally appreciate that feedback, and it's great to know that the fans are actually paying attention to that sort of stuff. So it makes, us want to be even more diligent, and try to get it right.
yeah, it's really cool.
very much so.
So shifting gears a little bit,
Sure.
diving into your past. Last time we
Mhm.
were on, we talked about some of the
I
unique.
you want the redacted version? Is it you're going to show me something with like a bunch of black lines through it or something?
No, I found your very well organized portfolio that you have posted, and something jumped out at me that
Hmm.
in your material that you had, you uh during your time previous to Jazwares, um, did a little work on some Marvel products,
Sure.
and one
Yeah.
of the things that in your portfolio was very interesting to me. You had packaging designed for Spider-Man 4.
Yeah. So the thing is with my online portfolio website probably hasn't been maintained in about 10 years. And, that was a tool that I was using to get freelance and ultimately get a job at Wicked Cool, now Jazzwares, right? Um, so it was my personal website, and the fun like and when working with Marvel, I worked on Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2,
Yeah,
packaging, style guys, that sort of thing. Um, and then when Spider-Man 4 came around, I think they were just like, hey, they went out to a couple different firms, like, hey, you guys do some concept work for us or whatever. Obviously, Spider-Man 4 never got made, right? So fast forward 10 years later, I get an email from some guys like, um, to a link to an article, right? Like, unpublished or unproduced Spider-Man 4 packaging found, It's like, I was like, man, yeah, all right, settle down, Dick Tracy. Like, it's not, type of thing. But the funniest thing was, it's like, and there was all these online, they posted it, I guess, on X and Insta, right?
yeah, yeah.
And, it probably got like 250,000 views or more about this stuff, and people were reaching out to me, and I was like, like, dude, it's something I did like 15 years ago or
Yeah.
whatever it was, 13 years ago. Don't read into it too much. Like, they wanted to know, like, how close was it being published? Like, can you offer some insights in your design? Did Sam Raimi, have any input on it? Blah blah blah. And I'm like,
It's
but
just
it was funny.
it's one of those things, right, where um clearly, little bit of a rib. We understand that,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's the way that
Mhm.
it
for
works,
sure. Yeah.
but it's just one of those things, right, where, like, you know, I I think, and we were talking a little bit about this, but before we started rolling, but, like, the amount of runway that exists
Yeah, yeah.
in like the toy industry, and we talk about this with guests from all walks of company, whether it's one man run indie company where the
Mhm.
one guy's doing the toy design, the art direction, he's doing everything, right,
Mhm.
to these bigger, larger companies. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, a toy still takes like 12 to 18 months
Oh,
to
yeah,
make,
for sure.
you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So it's just but I love the fact that that little artifact is out there, cuz at the time, right? Like Spider-Man 3 was pretty much maligned by
Yeah, yeah.
audiences when that movie came out. And
Right.
now in kind of the meme culture and years on, um it now has this sort of kind of reverence for it. So
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
But
idea that there could have been a Spider-Man 4, like
well,
that.
the other thing too is if you follow that stuff or followed it at the time, like they were pretty close to like saying, "All right, off we go."
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, they
Yeah,
made
yeah.
the announcement. There's one account
Mhm.
on X that reshares the tweet every year. It's like we're now, 15 years on of the announcement of Spider-Man 4.
Yeah, but like it was almost like that Tim Burton Superman movie where they were like
Yeah, well, I mean,
weeks from going into production.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
they
and then
had
they were
all the
like,
pieces there.
"Nope, Andrew Garfield."
Yeah. So but again, it's just it's awesome, and it's cool too to see, like, again, knowing that you worked on
yeah.
the packaging for the first three films, seeing kind of the
First
evolution,
two,
like where your head
first,
First
was,
two.
or first
first
two,
two.
sorry,
Yeah,
where the evolution, was headed, like
yeah,
what you
yeah.
were kind of where your head was at, what you were thinking, because
Hmm.
those two films, like, had at the time some of the best and most iconic Spider-Man figures, like, to date.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
absolutely.
did. Yeah,
And the packaging was awesome for him. So,
Hmm.
and that was still at a time too, with Toys R Us, and like the toy stores where, like,
yeah,
you
yeah.
had, like, the Spider-Man
KB.
section
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the store. Um,
But you were also seeing that stuff for like the first time, so it was, you weren't having this like, "Oh, I'll see this in a couple months." Like, you saw it out, and that was
yeah, yeah,
like, you had your
yeah.
reaction there.
yep,
Yep,
yep.
yep.
So you also
But
got
it's
to.
funny, but
Oh,
just go back to the Spider-Man 4 thing. It was hiding in plain sight for 10 years.
There's so much stuff on the internet like that, though, that, like,
yeah,
it's
there
just
really is.
it's wild. It's absolutely wild how internet culture works. And, like you
Yeah,
said,
Mhm.
you have an armchair Dick Tracy that's like,
yeah,
the
yeah,
you
the
know,
lost media world, where some of it is lost and some of
yeah,
it is just like, "Oh no, here it is.
yeah,
It was under this rug."
yeah.
Like, um, so you also got to work on some super unique packaging for figures sticking in the Marvel world on the 2003 Ang Lee Hulk film.
yeah.
What was the process of pitching like this very unconventional packaging style and other unconventional packaging styles over the years?
Sure.
Are there retail accommodations that need to be considered for that, or is it just like, here's what we're going with?
Yeah. So going to the Hulk stuff there, and actually some fallout from the Spider-Man 4 thing. So I got an email from a guy. He's like, "Oh, I went to your website, Chris. I was so happy to discover you worked on like my favorite movie, and I'm doing a Hulk man cave now." And he showed me this whole 3D rendering of it. It was actually pretty slick, And he's doing like a full size, package type of thing. And then he was doing some of the uh, he also do like a 3D sculptor and some of the Hulk dogs that I think one that wasn't produced, and he was going to produce a one off. It's like, I was hoping you can help me design the package. I'm like, dude, again, that was 13 years ago. I'm like, I don't have any of the assets, but best of luck with your man cave endeavor there. But getting back to the package, one interesting about not only working on Hulk, but a bunch of films over the years, right? You sign your NDA, confidentially agreement, and so they send you a bunch of watermark stuff of concept art or set photos, or on occasion, for other films, you go to the studio, you're locked in a room for 2 hours, you read the script, and then give the script back, and then you formulate your ideas from there. You're allowed to take notes or whatever. But um, going back to the Hulk thing, right? So I don't know if you guys remember that scene in Hulk with the containment unit there,
Hmm.
in the
Hmm.
lab. So
Yep.
so how do we try? I mean, it was an iconic shape, iconic moment in the movie. So like, how do we create a structure that's mimics that containment unit? So that's what we end up doing at the end of the day. Um, and in terms of retail considerations and packaging footprint, you kind of keep if kind of like what the standard is in that action figure aisle, because different retailers have different rules of when there's replenishment and all that good stuff, right? So you want to get as many pegs, or as many packages on a peg as you can, right? And then, as with retail, a buyer at a particular store comes, I'm going to give you 2 feet in the boys aisle, I'm going to give you a foot in the boys aisle, right? So you want to maximize the amount of product of your product in that particular aisle, right? So you have to be mindful of those footprint considerations.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of those things where, as I got older, I started to kind of think about it like, oh, it's like, oh, that packaging has two J hooks on it, like, and takes up two, like, it's like a double
Yeah,
width,
yeah, yeah.
like the consideration of like, oh, that could have been
Two
effectively,
singles.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
twice as much
yeah,
product,
yeah,
but they ended up, using a two pack here. So like,
yeah,
I just love thinking about kind of the mental gymnastics of, that consideration too, because it's not only, how big are you making this package? Is it a larger figure than usual? Is it something that's a larger scale? Is it something that can fit into the
yeah.
normal package? How do you position the figure in the package in order to fit, a larger figure in the same kind of package? And I mean, those are,
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you do have to look at the scale, the scale of the figures, right? So you may have a character like Hulk, for instance. So you may
yep.
have like the Bruce Banner then versus the Hulk, right? There's probably an inch and a half difference or more in between those two characters. So and Banner and the Hulk and whomever are on the same assortment, right? So you kind of have to determine what that package size is. Um, Funny story about working on the Hulk, right? So we were developing a package, and sometimes they'll send you products, so you can kind of figure out like what's the best type of packaging to put this in, right? So we got 10 of like one of I don't know 20 pre-production of the Hulk hands, the
Mm,
big Hulk hands, right?
yep.
So I'd gone to an Eagles game and brought them. Dude, where'd you get those? It was pretty crazy.
That's the right color. It's the right
Yeah, yeah.
color.
I feel like that
Oh,
became a
yeah.
trend too.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. I was the early adopter and originator, I'd like to say, because they weren't on the
Trendsetter.
market then. Yeah,
mhm.
Chris Metzger, trendsetter. That's
yeah, yeah,
that's really what it boils down to.
yeah,
No, but it's one of those things with superheroes, like you said, like the size is so different. I mean, like in wrestling, sure, you have some guys that are
yeah,
taller than, but for the most part, you're working with guys that are like in that like 6 foot range in real life,
yeah,
somewhere
yeah,
in that.
Mhm.
But like, I just got a certain action figure that I was shocked that it is a taller than average figure in the same bubble as a normal size, and the way that they did it was like the tray kind of just ended and her legs were just crouched so that way she
yeah,
could fit in there, and I was like, oh, that was clever. Okay,
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
cool.
yeah. Must have been a partial window box then, huh?
Yes,
Not
it
a full
was.
blister. Yeah. See.
Yep.
Yeah.
It had like a little, trying to see if I could, no, actually, you know what, it was a full blister,
Oh, was it?
but it has the little like cutaway thing at the bottom. I don't know what you call
Oh,
that.
so we got like a blister band, right? So it
Yes.
kind of hides. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah,
Yep. So very, very, very interesting. I again, like that, the mental gymnastics of of dealing with that. And something else that I think is a fun consideration, we kind of alluded to this earlier on when we were talking about the Ring of Honor packaging and kind of Jazwares Vault, but like ultimately when it boils down to it, right, you have two types of collectors. You have the ones that are leaving things in the box and ones that are
Mhm.
opening it. So as a packaging designer, is that something, do you consider both experiences when you're designing packaging, or are you kind of focused more on one or the other?
No, we do. Yeah. I mean, I would say we probably first and foremost keep the collector in mind, right? So for example, some of the AEW stuff, right? So we tried to pose them in a package in one of their iconic, poses or whatever, or that reflects their in ring personality. We also tried to when we put the inner blister, not to have too much covering the figure. Um, and then even what we do is there might be a soft good. So we try to put a buffer between the plastic and the soft good with some, plastic that's hidden, so there's no marking, on the figure itself. Um, but yeah, and then first and foremost, we just try to keep it again for the collector. And I remember we did what was it, Attack on Titan, a San Diego Comic Con thing that we did, right?
Yep.
So
Mhm.
with that, what's interesting, it was a bit of a challenge, right? So it was Aaron, coming off the roof with his swords or whatever, right? And they had the sort of wall.
Yep.
behind them. And the challenge there was how we didn't want anything heat sealed to any of the paper, right? Because we wanted the whole top to come off.
Yep.
And then also with the inner blister I was holding Aaron in the action pose on top of the roof, again, not heat sealed. So everything was either tabbed in or tucked under. So you could take all the plastic components off. And if you were, so desired to do the whole plain display thing, you had this great roof and the wall behind it that was unmarred from any of the heat sealing tape or any of that sort of thing. So
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I love about the Ring of Honor figures and some of the ringside exclusive ones is because I open everything.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but I like when I can save certain packaging, like packaging that's more than just kind of like your like the unrivaled and unmatched figures. Like there's no way to get those figures out without really
Mhm.
yeah,
destroying the packaging in
yep,
the process, which is cathartic, and it brings us back to our childhood childhoods, right? Like opening up toys, like there is a fun element to that, but at the same time, like I have Switchblade Jay White right here, but I
yeah,
saved the box with the with the slipcover because it's such a cool design, and like
yep,
that's
Mhm.
at some point I would love to have that out on display with some other packaging examples that I really love. So like,
Or even going back to the original, like Jericho with the champagne
yeah,
bottle. Like,
yeah,
the
yeah,
bubbly,
yeah,
that's another one that like you can open that, enjoy everything inside of
yeah,
it, seal that thing
mhm.
back up, and leave it on display. It's like I as somebody who opens everything, I
yep,
love when packaging gives me that option. Um, just because again, like I appreciate the entire package, pun intended this time.
yeah,
I appreciate the whole thing, but at the end of the
yeah.
day, like I want to get to the toy. So
Yeah, especially with those window boxes, like Switchblade or whatever. All you got to do is just cut the little wafer seal at the top, pop it, and then slide out
yep,
the inner tray, and you're good to go.
yep,
Yeah, I think one of my favorite ones were the two TNT Championship ones
Oh
because
yeah,
you have that like entrance,
yeah, that
and
was
if
super.
you
And then
light
with
it, yeah,
yeah, with the printed acetate in the back, kind of
mhm.
little Easter egg. You can put your iPhone light behind it and kind of light up the stage. And
yep. Even the Supremes have that that kind
yeah,
of factor to them too. Where if you're careful enough when you're opening them, you kind of have a little bit of a
yeah,
built-in display with them.
and
Or if
it's
you
fun.
don't
It,
open it, you have the
Well, yeah,
extra stuff on the side, so it's
Yep.
just
Yeah. It's funny.
front on.
Every once in a while, I'll go like, let's see what the reviews are, or like the influencers or the YouTube guys, and do their unboxing. And I'm like, no, no, do not open it from that side. Do not. It's like I think it opens up from here. It's like, oh,
you're like, no,
no.
you missed the point. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of those things that's it's interesting. From an unboxing standpoint, I love watching people like even as somebody who does this stuff, I love watching other people open unmatched and unrivaled figures. So I'm like, how do you open it? Like
Yeah.
how do
Yeah.
you open the
Mhm.
which part of the packaging do you mangle first?
But have you figured it out?
So now I do it from the bottom
Yes.
is how I open them, and
Yeah.
it
And then you can slide out the
you slide the tray out and you leave
yeah.
the. But like I love when people go for the top.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or yeah.
Just chaos, like pure. There's little like strips of cardboard that are coming off. There's like it's yeah, but I go from the bottom now.
He's got
Well,
his
I remember
kids
the first
plastic
time I opened up.
scissors. You know.
I remember the first time I opened up the Ring of Honor, a Ring of Honor figure. I'm like, okay, I see tape. I see tape. Oh wait, this is a slipcover.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about the chaos of opening like a classic
Hmm.
like blister card where it's
Yeah,
just like
yeah,
like, rip it off,
yeah.
and something to the the alternative. I think it's a little bit for everyone. But with that in mind, like everything that we've kind of discussed, um you've talked a lot about the successes, right? The things that have gone right, the things that
Hmm.
the kind of the how smooth the process generally is. But what are some of the challenges that you've kind of faced over the years, and things you've encountered while designing packaging?
Yeah, I mean, I would say some of the challenges are if you want to sort of come up with a design that uses like an unconventional structure or material or printing technique, you have it in your mind, and sometimes it's just not achievable in mass production, right? So you kind of have to uh, tone it down a little bit or modify it so it can meet efficient production standards, right? Because as these things are whipping off assembly line, and there's a couple people just like folding them up, handing it to the next person. But if it takes a little bit too long for that to fold up, the
Not
factory like,
typical
no, no, no,
works.
it's
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's some things that you think are, oh, it's the greatest idea, whatever, and in practice, it's just like, nah, it's just not going to happen, right? So,
Well, like for example, like the unrivaled and unmatched packaging. Like, how long did it take for you to kind of land on that design for those two kind of like mainline lines?
I mean, I know like some of a couple other people were working out prior to I jumped on the line, specifically Kevin Tully and if Jeremy Padella, right? Of course, he was over at Jack's when they did the
Classic
classic,
superstars.
or
Yeah.
yeah. So you can see our packaging is kind of a homage to that type of thing, right? And then that was very, very specific and very intentional. Um, but yeah, just coming through like the die line and how it figures out, right? So like I think some of the challenges are like you've got to figure this out, and yeah, you can do your drawing of how it appears in 3D or whatever, but like ultimately it's going to be printed flat and die cut, right? So how do you translate that 3D to 2D in so it could be produced in an efficient manner, right? So yeah, it's always a challenge to get something that works the first time.
So you've mentioned a couple times throughout the episode here of like working with other super talented people, artists, that help you kind of bring these
Hmm.
packages to life. So, little known fact about Adventures in Collecting, we do have a hotline.
Mm.
We often have to dust it off. People
Hmm.
people forget that we have a phone number. In
We get
fact, I'm going to
the
read
air in a can.
yeah, I'm gonna read it off right now because it's been a while since we've said it on air. But if you are listening and you want to leave us a message and you want to be heard on the show, we do we will accommodate. We will accommodate. And
Hmm.
our number is 1-973-750-8256. And you can call it at any time of the day. You will not bother a single
It is
person.
nobody's
Yeah,
house.
you're not calling somebody's cell phone a house. It will go straight to voicemail every time. Do not be scared.
However,
Call.
the um, robotic AI thing that was answering the phone is now a skeleton. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
just know that nobody's answering it.
Yeah. It's just there's no
We're
call
gonna hear it
center.
later.
But anyway, so we have somebody that reached out to us, Chris. A familiar friend. He's gonna introduce himself, I think, on this voicemail. But he left us a voicemail, so I'm gonna play it and we'll respond to it. So here, let's I'm gonna hold it up to the mic here.
Hi, this is Harry Moore, and I just wanted to leave a little message for your podcast that's coming up with Chris Metzger. You and your fan base may know what I have done in the toy industry for the last few years, but I just wanted to give a shout out because Chris Metzger is the person that gave me my foot in the door to the toy industry. And I don't want to hijack his podcast, but maybe a good subject for him to talk about would be all of the artists and illustrators that he's kind of dealt with in his role in the day to day. That he has given some people their first start, and also what it's like to try to manage an illustrator and get the desired results. It's not easy, and he has a lot of patience to deal with people like me. Good luck.
So Harry Moore,
Yeah, no,
incredible artist. Harry,
yeah,
thank you for calling in.
Yeah.
Listeners, you might be most familiar with his most recent work. He did a lot of work on the Marvel Legends VHS box art. He does a lot of the
yeah.
art on the retro releases. So you're seeing his stuff, kind of every day recently, if you're a Marvel Legends collector. But yeah, he saw you were coming on, and he wanted to leave you a voicemail. So
Yeah, right on.
go ahead so what's it like getting the best out of your designers and your illustrators?
Because I feel like this is your life, Chris Metzger. I was hoping you'd be my third grade teacher, Sister Mary Anthony, but
She's next.
I was gonna say we have Sister Mary Anthony on the line.
no, I mean, Harry's a super talented guy, and I remember when he first came in, he was working on some of the X-Men stuff and some of the Avengers stuff. And it's funny that some of the Spider-Man retro stuff that he's working on now is actually stuff that I had worked on, 20 years ago, maybe. So it's cool to see it come full circle that way. But, getting back to, managing, you know, artists, illustrators, that sort of thing, and being patient with them. I don't know. I kind of feel in the same boat sometimes with, my marketing and branding counterparts as well. You know what I mean? Be patient with the creatives, right? Um, but you just got to respect the talent, right? And if you're patient with them and respectful to them and push them, you're going to get the very best out of them, right? And Harry when he first came to work for me, he was just out. He was a younger kid, full of talent and energy, and you just got to harness all that and focus, right? Because we're creatives, but we're in the business of toy packaging, right? So there's a balance there, right? To not only be creative but sort of be in line with the overarching business objectives, right? So
Yeah.
um like I said, and there was a couple other guys, probably not. Just Mo Musa, really talented guy. Now he does infographics at some place in, I don't know, West Coast somewhere. A couple other super talented illustrators. A guy named Don Cassidy. He's used to be out of Kansas. I think he's down in Tennessee now. Um, but yeah, and the one of the most recent illustrators I've been working with, I mentioned before, the ROH stuff. Mel Coleman, out of Toronto, and super talented. And they you just gotta push them, and get the best out of them.
Yeah. And Harry actually backed me into a question that I was going to kind of throw at you here, which
Yeah,
is what is it like seeing those designs that you literally, like, you pioneered, you put those together. They're some of the most iconic, Toy Biz era designs. Like, they're back on shelves with
Yeah,
yeah,
seeing
yeah.
them
brand new
come back to
figures in them.
life.
Like, it's crazy. What is that like for you?
No, it's cool, and it's just like what goes around comes around. What is old is new is popular again, right? And I just appreciate the fact that Harry gets to work on them, so it's kind of come full circle, really.
Very cool. So
Yeah, very awesome.
this is the part of the show where we normally have a Q&A.
Hmm.
We're going to try something different this time. We got a lot of questions that were like kind of very similar and stuff that we talked about a lot on the last episode.
Yeah.
So I was just privately DMing people, like, go listen to the last episode.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is, instead of doing a full Q&A, we have a featured question of the week.
Mm.
Oh,
So, Dave, please remind
yes.
our listeners, remind our viewers, if you want to have a question featured on Adventures in Collecting and you're not calling the hotline, what is the other way that they can submit a question to be featured when we have a guest on?
So whether we're featuring one question or many, here's what you can do. Um, what we'll have is when we announce a guest for the episode, the upcoming episode, we will have a little box in our Instagram story, which is at AIC_podcast. And if you tap on that box, you can type in a question. We see it. You may even get responded to by Eric. You don't know. I don't know. Who knows? But what you may get is your question read on the air, and that's really cool. So if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you. Make sure to like and subscribe. And yeah, you can head on over to Instagram.
And Dave, that's exactly what you're going to do right now. Is you are going to read.
I'm going to read this question.
You're going to read the question. So this is our featured question of the week.
So there's also the possibility that I will misread your handle. It has happened many a time.
If you misread this one, I'm going to check on
yeah.
it. I'm going to get in the car and come.
I think I got this one. Friend of the pod at Toy Farce asks, what are the 3 key ingredients for great packaging?
Excellent question, right? And I think we touched on it a little bit before, right? So I think the packaging has to complement the product and vice versa, right? So, first and foremost, it has to be on brand, right? Secondly, I think it needs to show the figure or product in a good light, meaning that it's easily viewable if it's a blister card or a window box. And then, third, just great design, right? But yeah, I mean, it's always a challenge, but if you sort of bring those 3 things together, I think you'll get a successful package, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
And that has been our featured question.
I was just going to say brute force and sheer will, but that's
also that.
Yeah, 5 key ingredients. There's more than 3.
Yeah.
Persistence.
Yeah. Well, no. I think there's byproducts, not ingredients, right? So brute force and sheer will. And what are the byproducts of that, right?
That's fair.
Yeah.
So this brings us to our final question for you, Chris. And as you are a returning guest, our typical first question, or our typical question, last question that we ask, has been amended. We have a new question for you to answer.
Specific for you.
Yes, this is tailored specifically to you.
The Chris question.
Yeah. So when we have a returning guest, it is a more tailored, curated, nurtured question.
Yes. Bespoke even.
Bespoke, yes.
Love that word. So Dave, would you like to fulfill your role as this podcast's James Lipton and ask our amended final question?
Why, yes, I would. Chris, your amended final question, as you are a returning guest. If you could design the packaging for any product, toy or otherwise, what would it be and why?
Any product. It's a good question. Yeah, I think I pretty much ran the toy gamut there. So let's think outside of toys here, right? What am I a big fan of? It's a good question. You may have stumped me. I don't know. So, but let's look at
take something iconic like.
Yeah. I wear Van sneakers, right? So
okay,
repackage. Let's rethink the shoebox.
That's a great one.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but the first thing I thought of was like a Coke can.
I was gonna say, is it weird that I thought of food too?
Yeah, like I went like either Coke can, or for some reason I was thinking a Tide bottle. I don't
know, but if
you're gonna be shocked when I say chicken McNuggets.
Chicken McNuggets.
Yeah, I'm not shocked at all. That's very
not.
Yeah, but if you redesign the shoebox, like how many kids are going to be left out the materials and resources do dioramas for their school projects, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep. No
yes,
more, dioramas. No
yeah,
more cotton ball igloos, or no, marshmallow igloos
yeah,
inside
Yeah.
hmm
Cotton
shoeboxes.
ball clouds.
Yeah, that's the one.
yeah,
For some reason, that's the diorama that I always remember having to make in
Cotton ball
school. Is
snow
like,
too.
yeah, like
yeah,
snow with like marshmallow igloos, and you
exactly,
know,
yeah,
going to the dollar store and getting like the little dollar store animals to plug in there.
hmm
Um,
hmm
but yeah, so
I would
that's,
get dinosaurs just for laughs.
well, yeah, you love them.
or or break your Wookie, like Ralph
Like,
Wiggums,
Yep,
yeah.
yep. Fun toys are fun,
yeah,
indeed.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
So Chris, that's a wrap, man. That's all the questions. Before we let you go, a heartfelt thank you for taking the time
hmm
to chat with us. It is always a pleasure. We are fascinated by the how the sausage gets made, part of the industry. So hearing the ins and outs of the packaging is always fascinating.
Yeah.
Um,
Hearing about the art that goes with the art.
the
yeah,
art
yeah.
and the art of the art. But remind our followers, our viewers, where can they find you on Instagram, online, and where can they get the latest news on all things Jazwares?
So I think my Instagram handle is C_M_ Metzger, Metzger. And then follow Jazwares on Insta. I think it's just uh Jazwares.
Yep,
And if you want to follow the AEW stuff, it's AEW by Jazwares on social. So yeah,
awesome.
have a look and follow.
Well, thank you again so much for coming on. We'll make sure we put all the links to those handles in the show notes, so that way you can go and tap. And you nailed your handle. You had it. It was perfect.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and with that, I think, Dave, it's time to say goodbye. So let's send us home.
Yeah, just make sure to save that packaging.